What's going on, everybody? This is Mark from Solar Games, and we're getting close to the end of the year. So I figured I'm going to make a video reviewing 2022 and the year in review for WotC and Magic. So obviously, I want to do a year in review for WotC and focus on Magic, as I really don't know about D&D. That's their other big IP. But I figured I have a couple things to say about Magic this year. So let's begin. Let's first talk about sets. So this is what really matters for WotC. Here are all the sets that released this year, and we'll go down the list and we'll talk about them. So starting off 2022, started very strong with Neon Dynasty, especially on the tail of failure for Midnight Hunt and Crimson Vow. I mean, those sets were so, I don't know. They were good, but they were very bomb heavy. I remember going to the Crimson Vow like pre-release. I couldn't even get, it was just not fun because it was like, I didn't pull any bombs and other people were pulling bombs, and it's like, I'm just sitting there getting whooped, right? So it wasn't very balanced, and playing sealed, especially where there's no bombs or I didn't pull any, makes it really, really, really tough. So yeah. All right, so first of all, Neon Dynasty, overall, pretty good set, especially coming off the low of Crimson Vow and Midnight Hunt. Really, really great. The Collector's Booster looks super strong. Super strong. You know why? Because they had the, more rare than a booster box card, the Hidetsugus, the Neon Ink. And they had 4 versions of them with different varying rarities. And I think at that point, it was just really interesting that they introduced this concept of a lottery card back into Magic again. And again, they intentionally put it on a card that was not like super powerful, just to test the market and see. So look, at first it was doing great, but of course then what happens is that the second supply wave of the collector boosters came and really tanked Neon Dynasty's price. So towards the end of the year, I mean, at this point, like, we've seen as low as I think 150 for Neon Dynasty, and that's just how it is right now. So yeah, again, Neon Dynasty is still a good set. I think going to the future, the art's strong, the cards are good. There's a lot of good things about the cards. The limited environment for Neon Dynasty was also very fun. So overall, going to be a good set. So it should be pretty strong going forward. Then, of course, we come out with Streets of New Capenna. Now, out of the gate, right? Streets did not live up to the hype. And, at first people were thinking, look, the lands are really strong, the Triomes. And I still personally think Streets has a pretty good future. One of the problems, of course, is this is getting into the era of like Wizard thinking that, well, we've recovered economy. Everyone has money, so let's start printing really, really heavily. I think one of the main mistakes Streets made was the first fact that, like, the set is, 3-color, and Mark Rosewater has said this in the past too. 3-color is always difficult because, again, it makes the draft environment really, really hard to do, and it's very complicated. The Triomes are strong, and it's really a great place for the 3 colors. But I think in general, that set just was a little bit less fun. It was more difficult, so a lot of players didn't really feel the need. Plus, out of the gate, it's playing into a terrible field because, again, Neon Dynasty was so strong. Neon Dynasty had your chase cards, it has your lottery cards, and Streets didn't have any of that. And Streets of New Capenna had a box topper, but even I was not happy with the box topper because the intent of the box topper was that they had, I want to say 17 or 12. There's some number of different Gallic readers, and they were supposed to be printed in different, like for the Chinese version, it's a different art, etc. The problem is, of course, you could only get one version for your region. So if you bought the Chinese booster box, you got the Chinese version, Korean, etc. The issue then becomes, well, since US is the most common booster box, well, we got the most version of the normie version of Gallic readers. Had we done it differently, where the Gallic reader was just printed for every country, every pack, and everyone could open up one of some other language, I think that would have been great because they would have had an extra collectability to Streets of New Capenna. It probably would have sold the boxes better anyways because people will, buy the boxes to open the box topper to see which version they got and kind of have this like gotta collect them all kind of feel to it. So yeah, I wish I can own some of the ones that are from the different country artwork. Maybe I'll pick up some on the secondary market. I just think it's kind of fun. So the other artwork were just kind of nice. I really liked, I think, Brazil. That one is really nice too. The colors are great. Okay, so moving on. This is where it gets depressing, right? Suzu New Capenna was okay, but this is where it gets really bad. Commander Legends Baldur's Gate. Out of the gate, this set was, premium plus, because you're charging like 250, 270-ish. Again, before price increase, right? For the collector's boosters, you're charging like 150-ish for the set boosters and 120, 130 for the draft. It's a very different draft environment. All the things are just a little bit different. The problem was it was the bait and switch set. It had the Commander Legends name, but it was not a Commander Legends set. It was more like Adventures in the Forgotten Realm Part 2, right? So more D&D set and less Commander focused. And I think a lot of people were looking for the Commander cards, and they didn't get it. And so they're very, very disappointed. Look, again, the problem was that you had oversupply, and it was just underwhelming. Look, and out of the gate, if you're going to charge almost 2 times your normal set in price, you probably should give cards to the players, that are worth that. Something like more at the level of master sets, less at the level of, just a standard set, basically. Yeah, so of course, oversupply, demand was not high. It really just crashed the market from that point on. And these prices had just gone lower and lower and lower from then. And at this point, if it started out at 1.5, 1.5 to 2x the price of a normal set, most of the Commander Legends, Baldur's Gate stuff, you can buy on the market even today for like less than the standard set. In fact, it's probably the lowest price Magic Gathering product in a long time. So yeah. Of course, what happened was that, right after Commander Legends released the next set, Double Masters 2022 released, and well received out of the door. Draft environment's very fun. Limited environment, very fun. Again, like, this was the Commander Legends that people were promised. In fact, there's a lot of speculation out there that many of the cards in Double Masters 2022 was actually originally going to be in the Commander Legends Baldur's Gate set, but of course they swapped it because they need to sell more packs here. That sounds reasonable. I'm not sure how much of this was shifted though, but it does sound kind of reasonable that this might have happened. There was a little bit of confusion in the beginning that caused a little problems with the whole like blister packs. So these are like the collector's boosters, but it's a 1 booster. The crazy part is that blister pack, the 1 booster collector's booster pack, is bigger than the actual 4 booster collector's booster pack. And so people were selling the 1 pack for like $200, $300 on eBay. And people were buying it thinking they bought, a set of 4, or they just didn't know. They thought that's the price. So there's a little bit of confusion on that and some anger around that. Some anger around the fact that there was only 4 booster packs for the collector's booster instead of your standard 12. Look, overall, it was a good set. It went over pretty well. I suspect the print run for that set is actually low, just like any other master set. So probably long term, it's going to be okay to hold this thing if you have some. Otherwise, you can also just draft it, have fun. It's great, right? It's a master set. So, all right. Moving on to Dominaria United. So along with Wizards, just kind of continue that hype train, right? Is, we were all waiting for when the actual lottery cards are going to come back into the collector boosters. Well, of course, they announced it here. So what they announced was, they found a bunch of lost legends. These are legend booster boxes from 1994 that they found in a warehouse. So they decided to open them and insert the cards randomly into collector's boosters. I think the rate was, 3%. 3% of the collector's boosters would have a Lost Legends card, etc. So, basically it gave you a little bonus for opening them. And it's nice because it's starting the whole Magic 30 anniversary celebration to start it off with like a set that has all this bonus stuff. And of course, it's the whole, you can open a moat, you can open a tabernacle. All those things really drew a lot of people to Dominaria United. Look, the set's fine. The set's fun, the limited environment, the draft environment is great. Even standard, I think Dominaria United really brought some new flavor, new concept, new energy to standard sets. So that's actually not a bad thing at all. There's some anger around the whole like fake jumpstart set, the set jumpstart crap, bait and switch. Yes, that was pretty garbage to call something jumpstart and then basically tell people, yeah, guess what? It's not actually jumpstart. Using that name, but not really using it. It's more starter decks is what you're really getting. There was a little bit of anger on that, but overall, Dominaria is fine. The price is tanked because, again, there's just oversupply. Look, people realize very quickly that opening a $10 Legends card isn't really that great. So it's not really a lottery card if you open one that's still crap, right? So you really, if to chase the real expensive ones, it basically just becomes financially like not feasible. If you get it and you're lucky, great. Otherwise, it's not really, it doesn't really matter too much, right? Okay, of course, right after that, on the heels of Dominaria United, Infinity releases. So this is the Onset of the year. In fact, it was delayed quite a bit. I think it was supposed to release like January in 2022, but of course they pushed it all the way back to the end of the year. The release schedule was pretty rough. It was released like 1 month after Dominaria United. Of course, the whole controversy around black border cards. So all the cards in this unset, normally unsets have silver border to denote that they are not, I don't know, tournament legal, standard legal, etc. Eternal legal, right? But now, of course, they have black borders. So the only cards that they basically say you cannot use them in eternal formats is marked with the acorn stamp on the bottom. But otherwise, if it has a black border, essentially it can be played in eternal formats. And so, yeah, basically like any other unset, I find the draft environment is actually kind of cumbersome. It's too much reading. It's too much like jokes maybe for me even. It's not very many valuable cards. So of course, just like any unset, you open it, you draft it, you have fun, you throw away all the unset cards and you keep all the lands, right? So the 4-art lands are pretty nice. Of course, the Galaxy foil shock lands are definitely cool too. I suspect long term, look, it's the first like black border unset, so it has to have some meaning and value for the future. But even now, as I look at the prices, they're sitting around 88 per box. So that's pretty low, especially if you consider the whole price increase that happened at Dominaria United. So putting all that into, taking all that into account, it really doesn't change anything. I really didn't like the sticker. That was a lot of controversy too, where because some of the sticker cards were going to be eternal legal, I think a lot of players were like, well, what happens if you sticker somebody's like, Black Lotus or something? So there's a possibility that could happen, but I guess you could always just take your deck and go home. You don't have to play or something. Maybe the threat of a sticker will make somebody like quit. Yeah. So Brothers War, right? Brothers War releases after Infinity. Pretty epic storyline set. So this is going to this whole like epic arc in the Magic lore of saving Dominaria, saving all these like planes who are getting invaded by the Phyrexians. And the Praetors are everywhere, so they're like, different realms, so all the Planeswalkers are uniting against the Phyrexians. And of course, there's a lot to lose because a lot of the Planeswalkers are being completed by the Phyrexians, so there's that. Brothers War came out pretty strong, really strong, interesting draft environment. If you haven't drafted Brothers War, highly recommend doing that. Just looking at the set, looking at all the cards you have, so many options, it's going to be really interesting. The limited environment is also very, very good. So from what I hear, the standard environment is also very good. What I hear is that it's good. Again, I don't play standard anymore. I don't really play on arena too much, so I don't really know these things. But what I'm hearing is positive. The big part about Brothers War was serialized cards. Like I said before, I always appreciate the ability for Magic to have some collectability for especially newer players who weren't around to be or have the kind of money to be able to buy into older cards and have that kind of collectability. I do caution every single time that if somebody creates something that's supposed to be collectible, meaning they create it with the intent of it being collected, that you have to be a little cautious versus something that's truly rare by accident or something else, Those things are different, so you have to be careful about that. But in general, look, the prices are pretty stable. Even now, You know, I did the math calculation about Brothers War. I mentioned that there are a lot of boxes out there. I still truly believe that there are a lot of boxes out there. The prices are stable, probably because, you know, the serialized cards, I was wrong. Maybe people really want them, and so that is driving a lot of demand. It could also be because Wizards being smart and holding back a lot of supply, not releasing it all at once. So these factors could be playing into why Brothers War's prices stabilized. Either way, that's not a negative thing for Magic. It's good to have some market stability, so I'm happy for that. Yeah. And of course, it's Christmas season, so there could just be a lot of money that's being spent on things like, you know, Brothers War, which is available. So maybe that's what's also keeping the price stable. Cool. Of course, I can't end this this set talk without talking about the last thing that was released towards the end of the year, which is, of course, the 30th anniversary, the $1,000 flop. So WatchD, of course, try to test the strength of the market. Basically, look, they discovered that basically the market is way worse than they predicted. Consumers are very, very price sensitive, apparently. Yeah, so they're going to have to take a couple punches to the face financially and probably to their branding. Yeah, but of course, that's the issue. I think taking the hit on printing some cardboard, who cares? Like, they probably paid what, like $500,000, maybe $1 million if you add in all the advertising that they try to do. But taking that hit to their brand, to their reputation, that's way bigger. And you can see, I mean, the 30th anniversary happens and Hasbro stock goes from 80 something to 60 something. So losing about, like, you know, a fourth of your value because of something like this happening, that's pretty bad. So I think it's the thing, you know, 30th anniversary flopping is actually one of the best things that did happen to Magic this year, because it gave a clear message to the team. They may not want to publicly admit it, but it's true, and they understand, I think. And we'll just see kind of like how they perform going forward and what they actually adjust and change. Look, here's the thing. They're going to change eventually. I just don't know how. I don't know when, and it probably will happen before we all kind of realize it's happening. So, yeah. Look, on the PR end, I think overall, like, I would give WotC an F this year for their public relations. Look, the problem is, it's not that they're not saying anything. The problem is that they're saying all the wrong things in front of their audience. Part of the problem, I think, is just they're not understanding what their audience actually wants. The other part of it is they're doubling down on things that just aren't working. Especially when all of their competitors are cutting print runs. And look, Pokemon is not a small competitor. Flesh and Blood, not a small competitor to Magic. But if they're all cutting print runs and doing well, Magic should take some note of this and then adjust so that they can stabilize their own markets. And brand erosion is really strong. Just looking at the comments of my videos, you know, in the last like 2 months, lots of people were quitting Magic, or at least they're saying they're quitting Magic. That's not a good thing, and that's all out there in the open. So a lot of people are looking at this saying, you know what, I'm either going to take a break or I'm going to quit completely. I'm going to, and what convinces me that they're probably quitting is they're starting to look at other games. In fact, there's like conversations about Yu-Gi-Oh, about Pokemon, about MetaZoo, about Flesh and Blood in my comments. So people are watching my video and saying, hey, like, you guys want to play Flesh and Blood? How does that work? You know, you guys are advertising to each other to basically give an alternative to Magic. And that's really interesting because, again, it's not just saying, hey, I'm going to quit Magic, and that's easy to say, but it's actually something like where you're spending time, effort to look at a different game, an alternative. Look, you got to come down to this, right? Is it fun? Is Magic still fun? Absolutely. In fact, I think this is one of the best years, maybe, of Magic design. I think the cards are great. I think they're fun. The sets are fun. If you like playing limited, if you like drafting, this is probably the best time in Magic because you can draft whatever you want, and most of the boxes are very, very cheap. And all the prices are coming down, like, you know, post-sale, they're going down from 20 to 50%, right? Post-release, the prices are falling, you know, up to 50%. It's great. If you really like this game, if you like the elements of, you know, drafting, playing limited for this game, you're in a perfect market to do that. So that's not a bad thing, really, in this day and age. But again, given how I think Arena cannibalizes Paper Magic, and this is one of the challenges, is that people are playing more Arena now, and that makes it so that you don't really want to open more product. And maybe that's why the paper product is actually falling so much in price, because again, it's less accessible. You have to get people to gather in a room, which is not easy, not trivial, especially with COVID, but just people and lives, right? Whereas Arena, I can go online, I hit a button, now I can find a table of 8. It's very, very accessible. So yeah, but again, it does not mean the set Magic is not fun. Magic is not good to play, right? Stock value, I don't need to talk about it. You can look at the charts, but basically it's pretty much a D this year. They didn't really completely destroy the company, but they've done some irreparable harm to their brand, to the IP, to Magic in general. And the other sad part is it doesn't even look like they're trending upwards. The trajectory looks stupidly downward. You know, after basically after Magic 30, at this point, like, it's just looking crap. Look, they're going to push more product. They're going to try to raise their top line revenue to make it look good to the investors, which in some ways could be short-term gains for long-term loss. We'll see how that works. But again, if I was buying their stock, I would probably take a little caution right now. Look, 60 is pretty low, but could it get lower? I don't think it's ever going to go to 0. I think they would probably sell before they go to 0, but you know, there's a point where, you know, you start having to really think, is the the price you're paying for the stock worth what you're buying? So, yeah. Yeah. And lastly, and this is probably the hardest part, is that it's really, I think on the brand side, this is the year that Magic has taken a huge hit on their credibility and on the brand. I think the value of the brand has lost a ton, and that's reflected in actually the Hasbro stock prices. In fact, I think most of that dip of that 20%, 25% of Hasbro stock is because of Magic. Not, you know, not even specific to Wizards of the Coast, but Magic specifically. And that's really a big problem, because look, you can't do a bunch of rug pulls, right? And then you do bait and switches with set jump starts, your like double masters right after Commander Legends Baldur's Gate, 30th anniversary, you know, Amazon dump becoming a, I don't know, proper noun, proper verb. That's not good. These things are eroding your credibility. And the more you do this, the more, well, people don't trust you. And if people don't trust you, then your product's not going to get sold. At least not going to get sold for the price you probably want to ask for it. So again, losing brand value. And I don't know. I mean, I don't know if WotC understands what the cost is to lose LGS. They say things like, hey, you know, LGSs are doing fine. I don't know which LGS they're talking to. Maybe only the WPM premium stores who are getting exclusive promos that they can sell for hundreds of dollars, right? The ampersand promos, for example. They're not talking to everyone else who's selling Magic for them. And the problem is, well, guess what? Once you lose the stores, you're not going to have players coming in. You're not going to have players who just organically discover Magic. You know, bring a friend. All this stuff just goes away. But you know, and then the other problem is once you start having these new network connections being made, well, the entire network dies. All the players just stop playing. If there's nowhere to gather, nobody to play, why play Magic? But maybe it does matter, right? Maybe Wizards' long-term goal is to go fully digital. It makes it obviously easier to do ban cards anyways. So maybe that's where they're going. And so who cares if they're killing LGS, because they're not going to be printing any more cards anyways. Maybe that's the future of Magic. It's a digital-only game running on Arena. So anyways, that's 2022. I think overall, pretty bad a year for Magic if you are kind of like hoping the game would turn a new leaf and all that stuff. But honestly, pretty good if you like the game. Here, it's really weird, right? It's weird in the sense that like I feel like Magic is going down the wrong path, but the design is still very strong. The game, the playing actually feels pretty good still. The issue is just like the direction of the company and the divisiveness and the echo chamber that is causing WotC to continue to listen to themselves and not really listen to the community. So Anyways, that's going to do it for me. Happy New Year's. This is Mark from Solar Games. I will see you in 2023. Bye-bye.